going. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting of the Transportation Committee to order. Roll call, everyone in the committee is here. Plus, we have some guests. Jay Schultz is here. Deb Bijot, Ann Nutley, Rob Lamb, and Gary Rozwadowski. With that, is there any citizen comments regarding items not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll go into the first topic, which is the future use of MFT and municipal sales tax funds. What, where, and when? How do you want to kick that off?
Well, I just wanted to propose a thought out there. We've already started like changing the way we're going to attack the road system by using some of the MFT funds, the like 220,000 or so, to do reclamation, preservation, and also to do stopgap. What I'm asking the committee to consider is continue on that path and use the 1% sales tax dollars towards like curb to curb, sidewalk to sidewalk type projects. If it needs a complete rebuild, then you have the funds dedicated just to that. It's kind of a two-prong attack to try to handle our road situation. So you're still continuing with the stopgap, and then when it comes time to throw oil again, you're using it out of that $220,000. But you're kind of dedicating that 1% to go towards that sidewalk to sidewalk curb, because we need curb work done. We need the roads themselves kind of rebuilt in some areas. So you're dedicating that money to that.
I think that's what we got to figure out is what the combination of things are. And one of the things I thought of, though, is the one area that I thought we were lacking the most, where we wish we could have done more with this last budget, was more stopgap, because we only got half of the city done. And when you look at stopgap, you look at it, I think, the opposite of how you look at preserving the newer streets. You want to find the ones you're least likely to get to that are in the worst shape, and then put some stopgap measures on those. And it seems to me that we may want to look at all those dangerous areas and the ones that are really falling apart and put an effort towards at least getting them to the point where they've got the deep patches and that sort of thing, before we start thinking too much about putting too much money into resurfacing curb to curb. And maybe it's some combination of those things, and I'm not sure what the right combination is, but it seems to me that we only did part of the stopgap we wanted to do. And what does everyone else think?
Well, when we look at the 220, so next year we won't have as much of it going towards the preservation, right? Because we'll have done this year we'll do the last 5 years of new roads, and we aren't, not new roads, but newly
Roads
surfaced
done
roads.
within the last 5
Yes, last
years.
5 years.
Five plus.
Yeah, so we'll have done those, so we won't actually, and we won't do any new roads like that.
But we
So next year, we don't have preservation.
Well, we did find a whole bunch of roads, though, that, because they weren't, and again, they're not used a lot, so that's another thing to consider in the mix, but we did find some roads that could easily be, have preservation done on them, even though they're older.
But I'm
Um,
guessing that we'll have more money for stopgap next year than we do this year. That there will be less spent on preservation.
Sure.
Well, I know, but from the MFT, the 220, if we just think about
We'll
that.
have more of that
Pot.
220.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, more of it
Yeah.
to spend on stopgap. And if we've chosen our stopgap places well, we aren't going to have a lot more of stopgap places occurring in the next year. It's not like they're just popping up all over again, right?
It is Midwest.
Yeah, but hopefully there are, we can then do the south half of town next year. Do the stopgap there and then reevaluate, for the year after that, when we can look at everything, yeah.
In theory, you can take the 220 and then rotate between the wards, or rotate like, I think we did, Ward 1?
Oh, we did the north half of
North half,
town,
and then, so
yeah.
then you
So
can
it was
concentrate a
basically
little more
1
on
and
the.
2, and then do 3 and 4, and
Now,
I don't believe that we'll get all of the north half of the city done in stopgap this year.
no, it's not
So I think there
possible.
will still be
Yeah.
stopgap required in the north, and we're completely ignoring the south
Right.
this year because we just don't have enough money.
Right.
Next year, we're only talking about MFT, we're not talking about municipal sales tax. So next year, you're right, we should have less of the allocated MFT going towards preservation, although I do agree there probably is a few additional roads we could do. But in the overall thing, we should have a larger portion available for stopgap so we could do more. But I doubt we will have enough to complete all
Right.
the stopgap.
Yeah.
And so I for certain think if this committee and the city council makes a decision that we dedicate that MFT as the administrator is recommending for stopgap and preservation going forward, and then utilize the municipal tax, you may find that you need to use some of that municipal tax to actually complete the stopgap in a faster rate than we are. But at some point, we should get it to where we're caught up on stopgap, and now you can dedicate that municipal tax to, as the administrator recommends. Some of this is going to be kind of feel and go as we go, because the condition of a road, there's so many variables that will dictate how fast it deteriorates, including the weather, right? And so if we have a lot of freeze-thaw events, that's going to contribute to faster deterioration, which might require more stopgap than you're anticipating at the moment. So I think the committee is going to need to be a little bit fluid, at least for the next few years, and recognizing beyond that, if we just now switch gears and talk about the municipal sales tax, because of what was talked about last night, the collection of that's not going to happen for about a year from now, 11 months from now. I should say the distribution of that.
April.
So in fiscal year next year, 2024, 2025, you really won't have the municipal funding to do any of the curb to curb or things that
Right.
the administrator is suggesting until that following year, when you'll have a full year worth of revenue that you'll be able to spend. I don't think it will probably make sense to do a spend as you go, because number one, we really don't know the exact amount that we're going to generate. And we'll probably need a couple of years to really get a good feel of what that is going to be from month to month. So my recommendation is that for municipal sales tax, your even next year's budget process should not really include that, because you won't even have collected but a month by the time the fiscal year starts. And it really would get pushed off into 25, 26.
Deb, how erratic is sales tax that we get now?
Erratic meaning,
Is it a straight line across the months?
no.
Or
But
is-
we collect it every month, but it's different. It just depends on the sales the month before. Some times of the year are higher than others. Average right now, I did an average for last year, was about 137,000 a month, across a 1 year period. I'm sorry, 131. So I would estimate, and this is just a really rough estimation, that we would get the additional 1% would equal about 95,000 a month, give or take, but that won't start till April.
Yeah, well, I'm more looking at, the amount's not that important because this amount's gonna be different, of course. But it should track, right? In other words, whenever we get a peak in our regular sales tax from the state, we would
Yes,
see an equal amount
Yes.
for the road, or the municipal tax as well.
correct,
So the curves should coincide with each other.
yes.
So we can make predictions, based on, once we know what kind of an average level is, we can make the predictions on
I think that's a fair assumption.
I can do a
okay.
chart for you really easily on all of that too. And those
Right,
months
and what's-
usually coincide year after year.
And then what's the lag from when somebody buys a cheeseburger at McDonald's and we see the 3 cents of that or whatever?
It's about 2
Three,
months.
3 to 4 months.
3 months.
Oh,
Your
3.
collection month, the month that they purchase it, then the following month is when it's due. So McDonald's sells today, this month, they have to pay the state next month. The state distributes it the third month.
Okay, so there's another part of the puzzle, so we can
Correct.
figure, there's
So you're
some
always
ways.
There's a lag.
Yeah, the
So-
only variable here is, what is the average, I think, and from that you could figure out.
And the current sales tax, we get 1% of what's charged, but recognize that the municipal sales tax will not charge all of the same items.
That's
So,
right.
so it's gonna be a lot less, it's gonna be a percentage less than what
It's,
it currently is.
I think it's safe to say it's convoluted, but because you really, every time you try to put your thumb on it, it squirts away and you can't, it's not the
Well,
easiest thing.
and because vehicles are not included in the municipal sales tax and they're a high dollar ticket item, so on the normal sales tax that the state collects, we get a percentage of that, but under the new municipal tax, that won't be included, and that can create quite a bit of variance because they're large purchase items, and I don't know what month they sell the most cars, but, there are some months that are lean. And of course, none of that will apply to the municipal sales tax.
Yeah, I went through an exercise with Deb where we tried to make a correlation with other cities that have already gone through it. In other words, we tracked those cities before and after they implemented their municipal sales tax. It doesn't come out right. Even when you've got that known, it didn't come out right. So I know that there's some screwy variables in there that we're just not sure what they are, so we won't know what that exact amount is. I know you can hire that one company, some municipalities did when they were trying to get the 1% or whatever their percentage passed, that will give you a prediction, but we did, it wasn't cheap to do it. It was pretty expensive.
I think by the time you're doing budgeting for 25, 26, you'll have a good 8 months of running distributions, which will kind of give you at least some, you can protract, make some assumptions on what you think it's going to be for an annual collection.
It's going to take some patience figuring it all out, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And the nice thing is you have time right now to do so.
Well, yes and no. Yes, we have time, but we also can't do an awful lot of predicting where this is going to go until we do. So, depends on how soon you want to get one done versus.
My recommendation to the committee would be, concentrate on stopgap until you get to a point where you have a handle on it, because there are roads that really need, that stopgap, because, it's, and I don't think you'll be able to get it all completed this year and next year.
And if I could make a recommendation, a lot more stopgap done, we're gonna be able to add life to those areas, because rather than being a whole failed condition, we're dealing with pockets of failed conditions.
Plus, that road would also fall into what I talked about, is that it's a prime candidate for a curb to curb because it's in such bad shape. So why would we do any stopgap if you're gonna have to turn around and do,
I would recommend that roads in failed condition are basically maintained.
yes.
I think what the administrator means by we have time is that we have time to do all of these paver analysis, because when you think about the whole budgeting process, we're going to be spending what we've already collected by the 25, 26, 23, 24, 24, 25, 25, 26 budget year. And keeping in mind, too, that sales tax is a prediction, right? And we did budget lower this upcoming year for it. So we'll have a much better idea of what we already have to spend, because we will have already collected it. So instead of trying to guess what we're going to get and how we're going to apply it, we will have collected what we have, and this is how much we have, what are we going to do with that amount? And so in the meantime, the paver, Rob can do his analysis and get more acclimated with the roads and the conditions, both boots on the ground and through the system. And, we have time to research that moving forward, and then we can pick based on the amount of funding we have.
If I can piggyback off that, you're correct in that, and then between pavers and people, the boots on the ground, walking and seeing it, they can also come up with a pretty accurate list as well, based on a combination between pavers, a visual check, and then also based on the actual usage that, if you've got your top 10, but like number 9 is actually a road that is a critical path, you'd want to get that one done first. So it'll give between, the next, 18 months roughly? It'll give Rob plenty of time to work with Gary and figure out between pavers and setting up their own system as well to help grade everything. So it'll be kind of a combination of 3 different factors to come up with the best list possible. And then, of course, it's up to they'll recommend to the committee. The committee will make the final calls.
Sidewalks in this. Is it the same amount?
That's my recommendation on that is we've already been using about 90,000 in general fund.
Depending on the location. This coming year, we have 95,000, or for this current fiscal year for Route 14.
So that would be the third prong in my suggestion, is to continue to use that as long as it's not taxing the rest of our general fund, but to use that so that we're tackling the sidewalks. So
We were using MFT for sidewalks, so.
were we?
We're going to this year, but we changed that to the general fund for this year so that we could free up some funding for some of our other projects.
Okay.
Because you're so far behind the 8 ball right now, is to try to attack it as much as aggressively, to try to get a control on it before it falls even further apart. And again, this is just my recommendation to this committee.
Well, that raises the amount for roads too then, right? Doesn't that take it up to 380 or something like that?
220,000,
MFT,
the 220,000 for MFT has always been allocated just to the roads. That's been roughly how much we spent, anywhere from 200 to 220 for several years now on the road program alone. That does not include sidewalks.
So in the years where, because I think the first couple of years we were spending, I thought it was about, the budget was about 75,000
On sidewalks?
on sidewalks.
Possibly, it depends on the location and the conditions and how,
And where did those funds come from?
I'd have to look
Because I
back.
thought they were MFT.
I know
The
there
previous
was,
2 years, 2 or 3 years, it was MFT, and I think this current fiscal year, it's under general fund.
some of it last year came from the general fund as well. We had to use some, we had to combine some of that revenue together.
well, MFT was 300 and some thousand, not,
Would have included sidewalks.
and that included sidewalks.
If that's what,
And it-
if you're referring to past fiscal
Yes.
years, that it be, I don't, I'd have to look, I don't know.
My original question is, if that's the case, then MFT isn't going to go down. So that means that we will get 300 and something thousand for MFT,
MFT also includes maintenance materials, so.
Are you talking about our
I
total
know.
revenue?
but it did before too.
Are you talking about revenue or from
Yeah,
MFT? Okay. I thought you were talking about our expenses, how much we were budgeting to expend.
No,
Okay.
I'm saying that if sidewalks have
Yes.
been moved from being funded with the MFT to being funded by the general fund, that frees up money to go to roads.
We just did that this year to free up money to pay for the engineering and other fees associated with the other projects we have going on. All of the projects Dave left us with that he got started that are federally funded through grants.
So
That's
that-
why we did
okay.
that.
Match.
Yes.
Okay.
So that we could
Match
have some
funded.
extra cash in that, in the MFT fund to work with. We had additional funds in
Yeah.
the general revenue that we could work with for
Yeah, and all that's
sidewalks.
already been allocated, so,
Right.
yeah, okay.
So, but if we, going forward, we could still use whatever we decide the amount is, 75,000 from
Yes.
MFT, set that aside, that's sidewalks.
You can set your amount, and
And
then
then-
we do whatever we can
Okay,
with that,
and then the
that
rest
amount that
is-
you set.
And that's about, it's about 75,000 for sidewalks and about 220 then for roads. I mean,
It
that's-
varies every year.
Yeah, it does,
Right.
but I think that was.
But that's a general,
That's
Yeah,
about,
that's a ballpark,
So you
sure.
have a
Mhm.
ballpark number, and then
Yeah.
at that point, it's just determining what sidewalks, what stopgap, and then what road gets, I mean, in 18 months, what road gets the overhaul,
Yeah,
or
'cause
something
I
close.
think it's important to continue the sidewalk
Mhm.
program.
And then going back to the preservation part where Charlie mentioned there's some roads that could use it that aren't used less. What roads are those?
Put me on the spot.
Do you know? I didn't know if you knew some with
Yeah,
going through your paper
I brought
stuff.
them up last time, and that one was,
Besides Alderman Glen, that one I'm not worried about. It's more like the ones in town or the subdivisions that actually have traffic. That's what I'm asking.
well, they exist.
Yeah.
If
Because
you,
I think some of those should still get preservation, because yeah, some of those subdivisions are 20 years old, but the roads are still good, so you might as well preserve that road even longer,
Like
because,
Huntington Ridge, I'm wondering if that's one that would be a candidate for preservation. That's about 15 or so years old. And KLM Builders, that's one where they're bought some lots and we're building some spec houses. I don't know how that's,
so
go,
Rob, have you been
but
through
maybe
my
we'd want to-
subdivision at all? Country Brook? Okay, because I would say that's 20 years old road, but it looks fine. I don't know with the engineering side. John would probably be able to help me. Can you still do preservation on it if the road still is holding up pretty well?
Alligator, then no.
All right. Right now, no, it's not. They're not. It's just, you got the regular one, few cracks to it. But, yeah, so like stuff like that, you might as well do preservation as well for that. If we hit all the last 7, 8 years of roads, hit those areas too. So and later on, you're like, oh, shit, I gotta get this whole thing done as well, because that helps prevent using that curb-to-curb thing as well. And you can use that on, like, up by, Grand Street, like, up by there by the hospital, which needs curb-to-curb stuff. That's just one road I'm thinking of, because that's been brought up for many years, that's why.
Railroad Street.
Well, yes,
Yes.
a lot of those. But I just came from Ringo today, and our roads are 10 times better than those ones.
Their PCI score is 41, ours is 38.
But from driving on 'em, I think they were worse. I'm just saying, I just came from my son's softball and baseball game as well, and I go there every day to pick up my son from school. So I drive on them as well. So I'm like, just by like a layman person driving by them, they're equal, even though there's a few points.
Marengo had the same challenge.
Yep.
With about 200,000 per year, 45
Mhm.
lane miles, a lot of failing conditions. Down and base, so it's, inch and a half there. You mill off the top and you'd be down to clay or
Yep.
dirt.
Seriously? Yikes.
That's
I
worse,
hope we
that's
know.
worse than bricks.
Yes, that's yikes.
At least, yeah, bricks is,
Is
Yeah.
it, is
Yeah, I
is
know.
the road doing this with no base in it? I mean, heaving?
Where the refuse trucks are. Refuse trucks are the worst.
Oh,
They're
yes.
2,000 pounds, they're stopping, they're starting, they're stopping, they're starting. There's areas in Harbor too, 6th Street. 1300 block of 6th Street has a section of curb that's just, jettisoning itself towards the sun. From just the weight of the truck pushing it up, that's on us to take care of this year. And, out there, recently, asphalted or, Lou was sharing this with me, where you send a machine down that's pushed either by the backhoe or a loader, and it reclaims the whole, surface and base. We could use that in areas because we would be reclaiming surface with dirt. So there's a lot of areas in town where in order to do proper repairs, we need to reconstruct.
So there's a lot to be thinking about, and we've already kind of, as far as staff, just making proposals now and hoping to this committee just adds to the flavor, I guess, of what needs
Can
to be
we
done.
use this 1% sales tax to do the matches we're going to need for the federal programs that are coming in?
I wouldn't recommend it. You could, but we're.
I mean, do we have an idea of like when we're going to need the money and how much it is on every one of these programs?
Yes.
Because I mean,
I would recommend using the sales tax that you put on the referendum that was passed to fix the roads first.
right. Well, but I'm talking about so you, instead of doing the federal program?
No, we would do the federal program. That's run out of the MFT fund. The sales tax, the additional collection is going to be in the general fund.
Okay,
So we have less restrictions running it out of the general fund. So we'll keep it there, and then that way it frees us up to make decisions that aren't as strictly regulated.
Is that mic on?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
So have you got enough to summarize all this in the
Sure.
minutes?
Lori's been helping me. Actually, Lori's been doing it. Yeah, I default to who's better, so. Gary had something.
Just a couple of clarifications. The stopgap, I've heard different people say we've done a quarter, we've done a half. You've done about 1/10 of your city. Kruk started coming up with the areas. He started at the northwest corner, got down to about McKinley. And then you guys got a bad storm, and he had to spend weeks cleaning up, and he never went back and finished. So he gave me that list that he got down to McKinley. It was about $300,000 worth of patching. We only had $100,000. So if you think about that 1/4 of the city, he got maybe halfway through. That's about as far as we've gotten with the stopgap. So 1/10 might be generous of how much we've gotten done so far with this year's program. So you got a long way to go. I just also want to point out, this year we're doing three things, right? We're doing pavement rejuvenation. For lack of a better term, it's putting the slurry seal down on good condition roads to make them last longer. We're doing crack routing and crack sealing. That's where you take your major cracks on a pretty decent road, filling them so water doesn't get in. Those two are not exclusive of one another. Sometimes you can do a pavement preservation without crack sealing. Sometimes you can do crack seal without pavement preservation. Sometimes you do them both together. That's what we're doing this year, those three things. And then moving forward, I would say we should work with Rob, because I do agree with what he said about the roads that are so bad, not let them go, but let his crews do the coal patch just to keep them rideable. And we'll worry about the mid-range roads and improving those. As far as pavement preservation for future years, I agree there are absolutely roads that are a lot older, 10, maybe even 12 years old, that are still in decent shape, and you can put pavement preservation on them. There's also roads that we can crack seal to make them last longer. So I would say next year, we should probably hit some of those, and then spend the rest of the money on stopgap. Once we get moving along in this program year after year after year, the pavement preservation probably would be every other or every 3 years, because you don't want to put a contract out for pavement preservation on roads that you did just 1 year ago. That's a small quantity. That's a bigger cost. Let's let a couple years build up, maybe 2 or 3 years, and then do the pavement preservation, because it's a bigger quantity, you'll get better pricing. So, any questions on any of that?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Based on those comments, Gary, I would say that the stopgap program is going to take more than a couple of years, and likely this committee is going to have to dedicate some of the municipal sales tax to getting that completed. And my recommendation would be to do that before you start a curb-to-curb replacement. And the curb-to-curb replacement should then start with those roads that are in failed condition, right?
Yeah,
Agreed.
but
So
there may be some of those failed roads that, we're gonna wanna do pretty soon.
Maybe
Yeah.
so. I think
Yes.
for the first
Yeah.
couple of years from now, I think you're kind of very limited, because you got limited funding still dependent upon MFT funding. So you're going to be limited in what you can do. And in year 3, I think that's when you can start opening up and figuring out, can you do a split of that and what you decide. And it's a little bit of cart before the horse at this juncture, because you're not there yet.
And we'll know a lot more over the next couple of years, because we're just starting this preservation / stopgap approach to doing things. So after we've done that for a couple of years, and then we have a sense of how much we're going to have from the 1%, I think we'll be in a good position to make some decisions. But until then, we just, keep
And
an
the
open
last thing I want
mind.
to add is, when you guys talk about curb to curb, there's 2 ways of doing that. One is the old mill and resurface, mill it off, put in a new pavement, assuming you have a good base. And you also have to do, now we all agree, we need to do some curb repairs. If the curb's in decent shape, we can repair sections of it. We can adjust the drainage structures and fix those. That's all part of mill and resurfacing. The other roads that are at the bottom, we just gotta blow those out and totally reconstruct those, and those are very expensive.
Very expensive.
And some of those cases, the storm sewers are crushed.
Mhm.
And that just makes it worse, and
And crushed storm sewers, and also, we have a lot of storm sewers in town that are silted up to the grate. We are currently out sweeping to try to slow some of that down. It's gonna be a focus of mine, as staff and time have availability to do that at least in the spring and the fall every year. Having the vac on, with the Vactor or the combination unit, that's gonna be key, but having the staff to staff that is going to be, you know, a challenge. But that's definitely, as we get time and availability, you know, no more storms. We hope to start knocking out some of the intakes and the maintenance, the catch basins, and jetting some of those lines. I think right now we start with the catch basin, see where we're at, and start making plans.
Anything else on that? John has a presentation that he would like to give regarding some methods.
Yeah, basically, I do a lot of, well, for lack of a better word, presentations to municipalities, to engineers, to quality control people, and what I did was basically cherry-picked a couple slides out of some of those presentations. Some of the low-hanging fruit that I think we really need to look at to get the most out of our roads or get the most out of our construction. And, you know, it's going to cost a little bit of money in order to get to build these roads correctly. And what I kind of want to show to you though is that it's well worth it. So go ahead there. All right, so I like to start with this slide. I start this slide with about almost all my presentations. Remember, it is a low bid, right? So, and contractors, for the most part, they all want to do a good job. They do. But they don't make money if they're doing too good a job. So if, you know, give them an inch, they will take a mile. And so construction oversight is definitely something that you do want to spend some money on. And if we can do it in-house, hey, that's great. You know, if Rob's, feels he can do it himself, that's great. That's great. That'll save us some money. A lot of municipalities hire somebody like Gary and have a dedicated engineer to the job to do the oversight. Next slide. All right. I brought this up a couple of years ago. This is from 2021. This is on 8th Street. I just happened to be driving by about a month after it was paved, and we got this big bird bath out there. That's a technical term. We call it a bird bath. And we accepted this pavement. I was no way on any job that I've ever worked on would we accept this pavement. But we did. We being Harvard did. There's some things that can be going on here with this and this happens every rain. Every rain,
Yep,
if you drive
sure
by
does.
8th Street, you're going to see this.
I
every
drive
time.
this road nearly every day. So.
He knows.
So, I was talking to Gary about this a little bit earlier tonight, and, he said, well, he didn't get a chance to go out there and shoot grades, and we didn't probably do enough preparation before we just went out there and, as Gary said, figured it out. Well, they didn't quite figure this out. I know this road is pretty wide. I know it's got some things going on. If you look at the curb and gutter on the left, why we spend our money on curb and gutter, I don't know, because those parking spots slope back to the road. So no water actually goes to the gutter. So why do we spend money on gutter if we're not going to use gutter, right? And then there's
But wait, hold on. Mm-hmm. Who did the engineering on that? We just didn't say throw curb and gutter in and.
Well, I had no.
There.
Yeah, I'm not sure when the curb was
that curb and
built.
gutter was not there, or no, it was.
No,
It was
the
a long
curb
time ago.
the curb was built before I came to the
That's right,
community.
that's right. It was sitting there, but that was all gravel there, right?
Yes.
It was not engineered. It was just put in. I didn't even know anything about it.
So you mean the curb was put in?
Yeah, I didn't know anything about it.
Do you know what year it was put in?
Probably 2 years before that was paved.
No, it was,
Oh,
it
it was a long
was,
time. It was there a long
Before that?
time.
yeah, it's been in before
Like
2007, yeah. My guess is when they redid the park, yeah. So I moved in the community end of 2006, it was already there then.
Okay.
So I guess, in order to have gotten that water to move to the gutter, you would have had to build that road up, to the center line substantially.
Yeah, and I think, if I recall, when you brought this issue up, after the fact, and I spoke to Steve about it, what we bid to do was, grind and resurface, does not affect the base, and so it needs to be rebuilt from below, and that was not part of the contract, so he did the best he could, which clearly, this area will be very susceptible to quick deterioration because it always has pooling water on it when it rains.
Correct, and go to the next slide, Mayor. Okay, this is what I talked to Lou a bit about a month ago or so. I stopped in and talked to him about it. Density is paramount to durable roads. All right, if you don't have density, you're losing 30%, 40% service life quickly. So the state specification for density is 93%. So 93% of a voidless mix, let's say, is what their specification is. And so part of the, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, but part of quality control is making sure that they are getting the 93%. Because remember, asphalt, unlike concrete comes out of the back of the paver, it cures, and you're done, right? Asphalt comes out of the back of the paver at 80 to 81% density, somewhere in there, and then you got to roll it and compact it and get the voids out of it, basically. And so, how does the roller guy know how many times he needs to roll on top of any given spot on the asphalt mat? Well, he really doesn't, unless there's somebody out there with it's a nuclear density gauge. Not getting too technical, you hit a button and it will tell you your pounds per cubic foot for that spot. And so what you do is, the guy go out there with the gauge, you roll it, he hits the button, he gets a reading. You roll it again, he hits the button, he gets a reading. And you keep going until it peaks. Once it peaks, that's all you're going to get. So, and then he sets the rollers up in some kind of a pattern to obtain that. And typically for a city street mix or so, it's 5 to 6 passes with the roller. Okay. I don't know what's been done in the past around here, but going forward, it would behoove us to spend a little bit of money to make sure that the contractor is giving us the correct compaction level.
Okay.
All right, this goes hand in hand, okay? If you don't have compaction, you're going to have permeable pavement. And this just basically shows that at 93%, and the numbers on the left, don't really matter except for just looking at the how much you're losing, basically how much more permeable is going to be from 93 to 90 to 88. All right, so at 93 you're at say 90 or so on permeability there. At 10%, you're all the way up to 300, and at 12% voids, you're all the way up almost 600. So, so that's really moving. And if you look at, don't think that pavement is not soaking in water. It is. And if you look at A Street, it'll rain, there'll be a puddle there, there'll be no sun, some will evaporate, but most of it is going down into the pavement, which will cause problems later on. Next slide.
Are you suggesting that it didn't get compacted enough
No,
there?
No, well, it may be, I don't know.
Right.
I honestly don't know, because
No one's shot.
we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know that
'cause we
data,
don't know.
right.
I would venture to guess that that it may not have.
Okay.
Even if it did, it's still permeable.
Yeah,
somewhat,
well,
right?
even if it's compacted as much as it can be, there would
Right.
still be
It's-
some
it's-
permeation.
Correct.
Okay.
We need more birds.
Next slide.
Okay.
All right, and Rob alluded a little bit to this before. You know, this, I see, this is right in front of my house, actually. So the pavement in front of my house was put in 93, 94, maybe-ish. So the water never gets to the curb. It runs a foot and a half away from the curb because there's a indentation there, basically. From what? From the garbage trucks, right? Maybe the school buses, but mostly the garbage trucks. Well, and you can see the alligator cracks. There's a lot of them next to the curb, and they're kind of starting to spread into the road more. If we were to say, you know, if we were going to repair or do a stopgap, let's say, on this pavement, I would say we patch 4 foot away from the curb. Just blow it out there, put in a 4-foot edge patch, and get the water to go to the curb and provide some structure for the garbage trucks, basically. Next slide.
Were there municipalities that go to different garbage schedules instead of like once a week, twice a week?
Oh, yeah.
Or like every 2 weeks instead of once a week?
Every 2 weeks, no. You have at least one pickup a week.
Because that's a major problem, is those trucks on our roads every week.
The other problem with that is if you told everybody that, you know, that the truck traffic would be virtually the same, because then they'd be putting out 2 cans, which would
Yeah.
require twice as many trucks to do
I
it.
get it. Well, I mean.
And those trucks will be heavier because they'll be packed to the gills.
And I know some people that work for the refuse industry, and saying that they're always within limit.
With a wink?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe not always the case.
At the beginning of the day there.
Yeah, and if it rains, it's a hefty ticket.
I mean, our bins are huge, and really, I don't, like our house, we don't fill it up. I mean,
I
we're
do.
picking it up. You do? What are you doing?
My house.
I put all the stuff that's recyclable in there.
I know. Well, no.
No, if you're talking recycling, you can do that every other week. But
Yeah.
if you're talking just regular trash, yeah, you have to do that every week. Otherwise, it will pile up.
I mean, could we change our recycling to every 2 weeks? Cut down on a,
Yeah, we can work with it.
I mean, I put out the recycling bin like every 3 weeks, really. I mean,
Well,
well, I'm at the bowling alley most of the time, so our trash is there.
See, we got a big, thing to do there. That's why I don't.
I will say that my recycling bin is fuller than my
Really?
trash bin
I'm
every
proud of
week.
you.
Except this week, because I think we're
Ours is
home
too.
as much.
Ours
I
is
noticed it was only
It's not
half
full
filled.
though, but it's fuller.
It's full in my household, but I
Gotta
have a
put a-
lot of,
Cardboard box in it before
Like
they
two
came
episodes.
today.
yeah,
You got, yes.
yes, so.
Don't carry that conversation any further.
This actually is a video, if you
Oh, it's
see it
video,
on the
okay,
screen
yeah.
somewhere.
I'm sorry, John, so we can look into things like that as far as maybe working with the MDC to change the schedule around a little bit. That, we can work that in.
Yeah, right. We just signed a new contract, that's a problem.
Maybe you
4
can,
years.
because
4 years when the
recognizing,
contract comes up.
recognizing that we've contracted them for the days that we have, and if you tried to change those days, I'm sure they're contracted with other municipalities, that's a conflict, so I, quite frankly, don't
worth an
believe you
ask.
could, but
Yeah, no, it's okay.
I'm
I
just
just
trying to
was
set
curious- I just wanted to answer
expectations
the
there,
question.
because
Because it
you know,
sounded like
you've got
that's
a
the
contractor
biggest
that serves
problem,
more than
is
just the
the
city of
trucks.
Harvard.
Well, and the trucks have been getting larger and larger because
Yeah.
as they cut back on manpower. The first trash truck I bought was down in Kansas, was a small one. The one they just replaced, it was huge. I'm like, the population didn't grow, but there's only so much manpower.
You ready for this?
All right, so this is an actual pavement core that's at 90% compaction. This is basically showing how the water moves right through it.
It's not the same as concrete,
Not the same as concrete, no. Not the same
but
as
the
concrete.
price of concrete is significantly more than this.
Now, that is a little bit stonier mix than we would most likely use, so that, but it is happening, and it happens, just like that. So, all right, so to the guts of this, MFT money, all right, and I would, I would say that our 1% sales tax money, we should require QCQ, or we should use a QCQA program, okay? QCQA stands for Quality Control, Quality Assurance. The contractor is required to have a tester out there to verify that they're getting density under QCQA. So he is supposed to, the contractor is supposed to set the rolling pattern. The contractor is supposed to monitor density throughout the day. The contractor is supposed to monitor pavement operations, adjust as necessary, monitor, segregation. Segregation's kind of a big thing. A lot of it's end of load. End of load segregation means that one truck dumps into the paver, and when he dumps, typically the big stuff's on one end of the load and the big stuff's on the other end of the load, right? So it goes into the paver. All right, so once the material goes through the paver, what's left? The big stuff. So then the next truck comes, he's got the big stuff on his end of the load. So you got two trucks combined with big stuff. And
Big stuff meaning the
bigger
larger
rocks,
aggregate.
Bigger
right?
aggregate, right. And so then you'll get spots on the pavement of what we call rock pockets, which are going to not have density and be highly permeable. That's, once again, that's something else that the contractor is supposed to be keeping an eye on, and is supposed to, there are different techniques to minimize it, but yeah, he's supposed to be watching that. Okay, so then the next slide is quality assurance. Quality assurance is typically a company that is hired by the engineer or hired by the village to make sure the quality control is doing what he's supposed to do. All right, so
Trust but verify.
correct. So, and most municipalities are QCQA. A few use other programs, but most are QCQA. And once again, to use MFT funds, you're supposed to be QCQA. And once again, it will, the quality assurance tech, you're gonna have to pay for him, okay? He's gonna cost you, say, $1,000 a day. He's gonna. But on the same token, go back to that slide where you didn't get compaction and you're, losing 6 years of life on your pavement. So
It's a small price to pay to ensure
pay a
you're
little,
getting the
pay a
highest
little now
quality.
and get a lot later, maybe, right? So, that's all. I just want to make you all aware of, kind of
Yeah, thank you.
what's going on out there.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
No problem.
You know anybody that does that kind of work?
Be a side gig, Charlie.
I know a bunch of other people that do, but, and as does Gary.
I will say that as part of discussions with Gary and Deb, Deb and I sat down last week and we're talking about MFT projects and projects coming up. And while the city of Harvard's been doing the engineering inspection in-house for many years, moving forward, I think that having CBEL take more of a role in this and sort of protect the city's interest in some of these projects, like John said, like this would be money well spent to make sure that we're getting the product that we paid for.
When we write up the request for quotes, do we put that in there now?
As I understand it, anything that was spent just out of MFT was done in-house before. If it was federally funded, then Gary would provide that oversight as part of the project.
Yeah. Yeah, but not that specifically to hire a quality control firm.
Quality assurance technician.
But I mean to hit these specifications, I guess is what I'm saying. With those in the, yeah? We just didn't know if they did it or not. Okay.
I mean, I wasn't involved with.
No, I understand.
Construction
I'm just saying.
Basically, if you quote IDOT's SSRBC in your specifications, then you're asking for QCQA. Whether you got it or not, I don't know, but
Right.
it was in there.
Okay. Got it. Anything more on this topic? Okay. That brings us to staff report on the current state and future timelines of city road, bridge, and sidewalk projects. And this is, I don't know if some of you remember, but before Dave left, actually a year before he left, he said that, I'm going to be leaving sometime. And he had Gary come in and give us a presentation on all the ongoing projects, and he said, keep track of this stuff because I'm not going to be around. So that's why this is on the agenda, and that's why we're trying to keep it going and make sure that so everybody has we don't forget or we don't lose track of all the things that we're working on. And Gary, do you want to go through those, or?
I can. So these are the major projects that we have going on. Diggin Street, it's a federal job from Front down to Lawrence. That job is frustrating to me because the state and the feds are taking forever to approve the contracts. I had the mayor write a letter to IDOT the other day complaining of the length of time it's taking them to approve our contract. We cannot start work until they approve it, otherwise we don't get paid. So if you look, the schedule that we did a year ago had phase 2 and construction back 2 quarters. So we're 2 quarters behind now. It's taken IDOT, they've had our contract since May of 22. So it's about 12 months, 11 months. And they still haven't approved the contract, which is, I mean, it used to be 6 months and that was bad, long. So it's getting worse rather than better. But we're at a point now where we need that approved, which is why I had the mayor write that letter, because we need to get design done so we can get it constructed before winter of '24. The next project is our wonderful sidewalk on a state route that, again, IDOT keeps throwing wrenches in because it's their route. The special waste that we had to do for them took forever. And now Geometrics is looking at the ADA ramps. So I'm not concerned yet. We'll get that constructed this year. We're getting close with them. It's just a waste of time and money dealing with them. But it is their route. Moringa Road Bridge and Moringa Road Rehabilitation, those 2 projects, contracts are in, waiting to be approved. The good thing with the way this is set up with the council, the McHenry Council of Mayors, is we have that whole quarter there before construction to play with if we run into the same contractual issues of getting these contracts approved with IDOT and the feds. But I see no issue with either one of those. Air Street is going to be starting construction right after Milk Days. 173 sidewalks, that is RTA Access to Transit grant. We got $55,000 from them to do a phase 1 to install sidewalks on the north side of 173. The city's kicking in $40,000. That would be that is to install a sidewalk on the north side of 173 from 14 to Moringa Road, and that includes getting pedestrians over Mochler Creek. If you can picture what 173 looks like, it's guardrail to guardrail, off pavement, nowhere for anyone to walk. People have to actually walk in the travel lanes if they want to get over Mochler Creek. So our options are going to be, in the phase one, would determine this. Do we widen those culverts out? It's a triple box culvert. Do we widen that out and get a sidewalk in there, or do we actually put in just a separate pedestrian bridge? And we'll look at that during the phase one. We'll look at cost, aesthetics. There's pros and cons to each one. A pedestrian bridge, you can actually span not only the creek, but the floodway and the floodplain, and now you've removed all those regulatory agencies, IDNR, Army Corps. I think it's more aesthetically pleasing to have a nice pedestrian bridge, kind of like the one we did on the street over from Air. But we'll get to that later.
That's this area right here.
So that project is just started. We are under contract. We've done survey. We're doing all the environmental stuff now. Moringa Road sidewalks is a CMAQ funding. That's also federal funding. What RTA does is they take a bunch of small projects from different municipalities, lump them into one big CMAQ application, and present that to the feds to try to get funding for all these little projects that would never have a chance of getting funding on their own. That's how we got the phase one done. So we've reapplied for phase two funding. RTA packaged all these projects up. They've submitted it. The announcement comes out in July as to who gets what money. So we'll know in July whether we got that project or not. The 2023 road program, I'm sorry, that should say MFT, not RTA. We talked about that tonight, so we know what's going on there. And then the 24 road program, I have that on here because we do need to start talking about that late fall, so we can get our program together, get it designed, and get it ready so we can bid that off early. This year's timing is not critical because pavement rejuvenation and crack sealing, you don't want to do that in the heat of the summer anyways. You usually do that September, October when it's cooler. So that's not time-wise, that's not important. So we have time to get that done, and we'll get that done. So those are all the major projects that we've got going on.
Thank you. What about the, so this is for the, the crack filling and that sort of thing, right?
Program is pavement
Yeah.
rejuvenation and crack sealing.
But what about the stopgap part?
That's also part of the road program.
Okay, so this is all, it's all.
So the road program contains all three.
Do you expect that'll be will the same contractor do both, or probably? Okay.
The Moringa Road sidewalk, that's from Airport Road to Crosby, right?
No,
No, that is from Air Street to 173.
correct.
Oh, there, okay, you're right, sorry.
The one you're talking about, that would be part of the Moringa Road rehabilitation project.
Okay, so
Sidewalk,
that's bulked into that. then.
yeah, the sidewalk's included in that, as well
Yeah.
as the connection to, Brook. Thank you.
Yes, the stub that's not ever been done, yeah.
So Gary, when do we have to have what we're gonna do for next year finalized?
For the road program?
Yeah.
We want to get it in the fall, so that I could be designing it over the winter, so we can bid it early in February. Latest is March 1st, so we can get better prices.
So
October.
So have it ready
I
for,
was saying, let's throw another
October.
date on.
I would say, yeah, have it ready for city council October.
But keep in mind, we won't know how much.
September sounds better? Yeah.
But we're not doing pavement preservation next year,
Just stopgap.
just stopgap.
And that needs to be vetted, right, because there's a lot of it.
August. I'm starting to get it all ranked and stuff. September, October, and then by October, it's through the committee and to the council.
And Gary, we're doing
Gives them plenty of
3
time.
inches of
Yeah, but
surface
have
on
it
that
finalized October at city council.
And what?
Right, but
for the
as far as staff,
stopgap?
Yeah.
by
Yes.
August.
This year, we're doing 4-inch patches,
Okay.
because
We don't
I have no cores. I have no idea how thick these roads are. The problem is you don't want to do too deep of a patch because then when you get to those roads that only have 2-3 inches on them, you're wasting money. And if you've got, 6 to 9 inches of bituminous, please, maybe somewhere, then
Hopefully.
when you do a 4-inch patch, you still got
I
bituminous.
think you're gonna
in it.
find that out on Route 14.
So that was my thought as to why I chose 4-inch.
Last thing on the agenda is parking in front of 200 East Brainerd Street. You want to bring that up, Mayor? Ann brought this to me. Evidently, the owner of one of that address kind of gave us a heads up. And I don't know if you can see that very well. Whoops.
Second, get both of them open here, okay. So this is the household, this is the driveway, there is the sidewalk here, so here's the apron for the driveway, this is a no parking zone here, and then there's angled parking, and then there's a picture from the street.
Yeah, and I don't know if one picture's newer than the other or what, but you can't even see the lines.
I would think this is newer than this picture, since all those striping have disappeared.
But you can see the remnants of, on the curb.
Yep, right here,
Right there.
you can see one
And
right
you,
here.
you can kind of imagine drawing that out. It almost goes halfway across the driveway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was here, it would come out to like here.
Right,
So
right.
if you look at it from above, the driveway's here, if you went straight out, that's, this space should not be here.
No.
Which, would, is kind of an unsafe situation.
Are those city spaces? Are those spaces that we strike?
No, I believe these are public parking spaces.
Yes, they are.
Those are public, so they're
Correct.
ours?
Yes.
Okay. So we did that.
If you remember, we were talking about with the old church on 14,
Yes.
and this is the same area where they wanted to do overflow parking.
Oh, okay,
It's the same,
okay.
Yeah, for the church on the,
Gotta get my bearings
it's
here.
almost across the street from that.
Brink Street, okay, yes. So we are talking about, this block, right, sorry.
getting dizzy.
Yep, go back.
No,
It's
you're
pretty
right
much-
there, right there.
Right
right
here,
there.
this block,
Yeah. So it's Johnson Street, it's not Brainerd.
it is Johnson Street.
Yeah, the address, the
That's,
house
I was
is.
confused.
But
Well, it's-
Brainerd,
yeah, it's a-
so
it's
the
a
corner,
Brainerd's
the
the
corner,
house address.
yes,
is
the
the
house
house
is
But
on Brainerd.
Johnson's where the, okay, because I
Correct.
was thinking we're gonna talk about Brainerd.
So, and the church is right here that
Yeah.
we were just discussing about,
Right.
possibly
I see, okay.
utilizing that, so.
And then go.
So
Pay those guys.
the thing is, what can be done, if anything, to help this guy out? He just thinks it's an unsafe situation, and you can imagine if there
Gotta
were
get rid of
cars.
that one spot.
We're gonna pull that back up, Mayor, because you have one, another picture from the county, you actually see a car in that last spot.
I'm sorry, go back to the other.
The county one, the county map. See,
Yeah. Right. I mean, that just.
I think the answer is
shouldn't be
eliminate
a-
this spot.
Exactly. Period. I don't think there's any other way to approach it.
If a resident is coming from this direction, there's a very good
Yeah, you
chance
can't- yeah.
they're gonna clip this car.
Yeah, if it hasn't happened yet, it's going to. We're
Wouldn't you
backing
just-
out.
Wouldn't you just eliminate both?
Both what?
One on both on either side.
No, I don't think you have to eliminate it on the other side.
Oh, both.
No,
No,
because they're
just
not,
one.
only one of them's in front of the driveway.
yeah, only one will be,
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you look at
Issue.
the photo again, gotta find the photo, sorry. If you take a straight line back, you eliminate this one, and this one has,
Yeah, that's
because of the angle, has more room to get
Yeah.
in. But for certain, I think you need to eliminate this spot.
Definitely,
and then repaint the stripe
yeah,
there.
right.
If we don't have the money to do the whole striping of the parking angle, at least put the no parking striping
Yeah.
in that spot again.
What's that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are we able to do both? Because this one,
Well, if,
Simplest, quickest method would be to put a sign in.
yeah.
I
If we
mean,
put a sign up, we gotta put it in ordinance. So,
You'd want two anyways, no
Yeah.
parking between signs.
what's that?
You'd want two, no parking between signs. I'd say stripe it. I mean,
I think striping it makes it, you just yellow stripe it. You would, I mean, obviously it'd be nice to add these additional
Yeah,
parking
but
stripes,
bet
but if
you-
you, at a minimum, just put a yellow striping in this area, it fixes that issue.
that image makes it look like it definitely was there at one point in time.
Yes,
But we're going to make it farther out though, because we're eliminating the one
yeah, just
parking.
encompass that one
Yeah.
spot, that one part.
yeah, I think you just make all of this from here to here, all no parking.
And we can do that with just committee
painting.
approval.
Mayor, you can send your daughter out there with a roller.
Could do that.
Volunteer hours, does she need some for school?
he-
Don't they need that stuff for school?
Okay.
Yeah, for like National Merit Scholar or something.
I don't have a child in high school.
Oh, not yet, I thought maybe.
But my oldest has graduated, so, and my youngest are not there yet.
Okay,
You might be able to see additional, photos of that if you want it back in time, if we go, how far back was it striped?
No, that wasn't.
That's 2015,
When did it get striped again?
2013.
Back.
2009,
See, that guy's name parked right. Two of them.
2005, well, that's 2008.
Oh, yeah.
There was striping in
Let's see,
2008,
when
so
was-
somewhere between 2005, 2008, it was striped. I don't believe it's been striped since.
So
You know,
Google
nine,
had taken
by
a
9,
picture
it started
over it, so-
fading. 10, it's a little bit there.
The lanes are going
11, by
Restriped at some point.
Yeah, it was, because he
Yeah.
18, 21. I was striped at probably 18, 19. But it does not, yeah, it was 18, 19, so there you go. Because 18, it was not there. In 21, it was. In 22,
Sorry.
yeah, how much is left, so.
Okay, do we need
Okay.
a motion?
I just
Yeah.
direct city staff.
Direct city staff, just
Just
direct
direct
city
city
staff to put the yellow striping,
as recommended by.
as
the committee.
recommended by the committee.
Eliminate that parking space. and-
Eliminate that parking space.
stripe that whole,
Just stripe that. No
the
parking.
original driveway part in that one space. Any objection to that? Okay, we'll do it.
You know what I see? I see some sidewalks in very poor condition.
Yeah, yeah.
Stop looking.
I wasn't looking at those
Not very
sidewalks.
Just looking at the striping.
Do you see this cracks in the road, too?
Just the striping, that's all we're looking at.
Yeah.
Any items we
You know,
need
No, I
to,
was looking at it too, and I'm like, oh.
any items we need to consider for future meetings? That you can think of? Okay,
Well, just the 2024 program that we talked about,
Well, that's
having,
ki- yeah.
having done by October.
that's kind of a
Yeah.
given.
Yeah.
Oh, I
That's-
know something, Jay, you're gonna have a meeting next week. right?
Yeah.
Oh, for the,
Yeah, get those, those bike and walking trail things, to us so we can approve.
Okay. Do we need to redo them?
Well, you were going to get them to us so that we could get it approved as part of the,
Because we approved them at
Strategic.
one meeting. I don't know why you never got them. That was like last summer, I think.
well, we never did, but,
Okay.
so you were gonna get them
I
to,
can just direct Ryan
yeah.
to forward that to you.
yeah, I know it was brought up, but I don't know why we didn't do anything about it.
Because it's been done for quite a while, and I thought they passed it on to you guys, so.
I don't know if we had the right directions on what we had to do, maybe.
Right.
I don't remember, but I remember we just didn't do it.
Well, we just thought it would be a good idea that since we do the sidewalk program, to make sure whatever we do coordinates with what you did. And it, you know, so we don't get one of those situations where a sidewalk ends here and your trail ends.
Well, cause some of it I thought we could maybe work in, you know, other projects, right?
Yeah.
As part of another project.
Right. Yeah, no, we should be thinking about it comprehensively, yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Motion to adjourn.
Make that motion.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye,
Thank you, everyone.
thank you.
See you now.
Thank you.